Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another weekly edition of the show live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Should be a fun one because we have a lot to get to. Breaking news that came out like 10 minutes before the show started. Manny Pacquiao versus Earl Spence, PBC pay-per-view on Fox. That's a good time to start a show, I guess. Obviously, we're going to get into the Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder arbitration and how the Fury-AJ fight is not happening anymore. I'm sorry. It's too funny sometimes. Boxing is such a crazy fucking sport. Obviously, fights this last weekend. Brandon Figueroa versus Nery fights this coming weekend tomorrow with Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez. Some real good fights to dive into. And unfortunately, no Gary today. Unfortunately, Gary is out of town. It is what it is. He'll be back on next time we do a show, obviously, and he can wax poetically about his boy Figueroa and how he looked utterly dominant. But I'll give my thoughts on it, all that fun stuff. I'm Matthew Hunter. Find me right there, and this is Mixed Combat Radio. Let's get into it, because obviously, like I said, breaking news off the top of the show. I mean, it's very rare nowadays, especially since I don't do a show like every day like I used to, where I jump on a 2 o'clock show and there's breaking news right before. So it's nice. It's like a reminiscing on old times. And the news is massive. It's fucking huge. Manny Pacquiao versus Earl Spence, Fox pay-per-view. I mean, what to make of this? I mean, it is one. I really didn't expect this to happen. Any Pacquiao headline for the last 3 months has been concerning Terrence Crawford, and we all know that fight is not happening. And I told you guys that fight was never going to happen for very obvious reasons. The fight could have happened basically every year since 2017-16, and it didn't, because Pacquiao didn't want that fight. Crawford wasn't a star enough, probably. And Earl Spence, even though he may not be a Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao level star, or even maybe a Miguel Cotto, though I think he's close to that level of stardom as an A-side. He's clearly, double, triple the draw of Terrence Crawford. So if Pacquiao is going to fight one of the young lions, he's probably going to do it for the most money he can. And unfortunately, I don't think that was ever going to be Terrence Crawford. There was several fighters that probably are ahead of Crawford on that list, unfortunately. For all the Crawford stands, all the top rank stands. But regardless, we have a massive fight. And, my brief thoughts on it, because it happened 10 minutes ago. I wasn't planning on breaking down Manny Pacquiao, Earl Spence. And I've been saying this since a while, since the Manny Pacquiao fight with Keith Thurman, even though that's a few years ago now. Pacquiao still has some juice left in the tank. Is it enough to beat in the prime Earl Spence, who looked fantastic against Danny Garcia? Doubtful. I'll be quite honest. If I have to pick, gun to my head, who's going to win this fight, it's not Manny Pacquiao. It's probably going to be Earl Spence, probably by decision, though I could see a late fight stoppage. But this should be fireworks throughout. Like, I think Pacquiao and Earl Spence's styles are going to mesh well. Both southpaws, so I think there are going to be a lot of exchanges where both guys connect, to be quite honest. Usually, when you have that, orthodox southpaw stance, that sort of contradiction there, you have some negation of some punches, some sort of, some angles and stuff. Southpaw versus southpaw, just like orthodox versus orthodox, all that is open. So I'm really intrigued by this. I'm also curious about the pay-per-view buy rate, because Keith Thurman did what? Around 500,000 pay-per-view buys. This should do more than that. Is it going to break 1 million? Probably not. 700,000, 800,000 is kind of what I'm thinking. But this is going to be a massive event. And probably, other than, we're going to get to it later, the Wilder Fury trilogy fight, this is the biggest fight in boxing this year. Like, by far. I didn't think we were going to get Manny Pacquiao ever again, to be quite honest. But he's back. Let me know in the chat, guys, what you think about Pacquiao versus Spence and it kind of just being sprung on us. And obviously, thoughts on Terrence Crawford. Let me know in the chat, guys. Like, do you think Crawford got screwed out here? Do you think he, what's next for him? Sean Porter, we're going to get to in a second. Actually, I'll just pull up right now. He said he's not facing Terrence Crawford next. He's moving away from those negotiations because Crawford and Top Rank just are not interested at all. So, I mean, where does Crawford go? He has continued to be the odd man out here. And it's unfortunate because the guy is super skilled. The guy is not a, non-draw. I mean, when he's on TV, he pulls great ratings for Top Rank. He's clearly the biggest TV draw for Top Rank. It's unfortunate. It really is. If Top Rank and Crawford weren't so acrimonious in the negotiation process with PBC fighters that aren't Earl Spence, if they actually came to the negotiation table in good faith with the Sean Porters, the Keith Thurmans of the world, I think those fights would have happened and Crawford could have beat them and we were in a completely different conversation. But that's not what transpired. That's not what Top Rank did. That's not what Crawford did. And now we have Earl Spence fighting, the last legend of the previous generation, the last star of the last generation as well. He's probably going to win it, and that's going to, catapult him to even greater stardom. Frank over on Twitch is saying RIP Pacquiao. Yeah, it does feel like Pacquiao's going to lose this one. So many years away from the ring. Earl Spence looked like nothing phased him from that car crash in terms of his last performance. Probably his best performance to date, to be quite honest, against a game Danny Garcia, who's top 6 guy in the division. IA in the chat on YouTube is saying if Spence beats Manny, he is ahead of Bud in pound for pound. He might already be ahead of Terrence Crawford pound for pound status. I mean, who has the better win? And who has the better wins? It's not just one win. Spence has better wins, period. Crawford's best wins are Victor Postal, Jeff Horn, and Gamboa still, right? And then you get to the Thomas Delormes of the world, the Jose Benavidez's of the world, the Felix Diaz's of the world. Those guys are not to the level of a Danny Garcia, of a Sean Porter. That's just a Kell Brook. I don't know. I don't think Bud has a leg to stand on, to be quite honest, in terms of pound for pound right now. The rest of his generations are moving past him at an accelerated rate. I think about Jamel Charlo. Okay. If Jamel Charlo beats Brian Castano and is the undisputed champion in that Shark's tank of a division, he might have a better argument. Honestly speaking, that's where Crawford's career has gone. William Phillips in the chat saying Thurman versus Ugas on the undercard. I would not oppose that, of course. Does it happen? I don't know. It would be sort of a fast track way to get Thurman another belt, theoretically, because I don't think Ugas has the output to really beat Keith Thurman. I think Keith Thurman has the skills, the output, the power, the athleticism to probably beat Ugas to the punch and probably win that fight. So if you're Al Haymon, if you're PBC and you want to get Keith Thurman to a title, that might be the route you do. Absolutely. If Golden Boy's ambitious, they offer or they try to get Ortiz that fight and offer some obscene amount of money. Maybe Crawford versus Ugas. Maybe that's a pay-per-view that they can do. But I don't think Crawford's going to want that fight. I don't know where all these other welterweights go right now. IA in the chat saying Haymon needs to be credited for his work with Spence. It's A1 elite star building. I think that Spence's path to stardom was clearly laid out. I don't mean that in it was manufactured or that it's not legitimate. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that Spence took the right step ups at the right time. He was put on the right cards at the right time. Thinking about the Chris Algieri fight, which was shown after the Olympics and seen by 6 million people. That's just real smart promoting. So to your point, it's definitely been a project on making Spence into a pay-per-view commodity because Spence, I think, on his own, left to his own devices, probably does not develop into a star. Like, imagine if he has, Cameron Duncan as his promoter. Imagine if he had K2. Imagine if he had anyone else that is not Heyman and PBC in that, sort of operation. I don't think they would have succeeded with Earl Spence. NP in the chat saying Ugas ain't no wash. That's definitely true. No. I do pick Thurman against Ugas. I think Thurman Ugas is one of those guys where if he threw in combination, he could beat probably a lot of these guys. Maybe a Porter or Danny Garcia. Yeah, he could beat those guys. But he doesn't throw enough in combination. So he loses rounds that way, quite unfortunately, due to inactivity. I think Thurman wouldn't have that issue. What else? Shill Killa in the chat saying, why wouldn't Crawford want the Ugas fight? Well, why would he want the Porter fight? Why would he want the Thurman fight? And again, when we're talking about these sort of situations, especially nowadays, Crawford and Top Rank are interchangeable. Because clearly there's no difference in mentality on career path, on what's next, anything. Because Crawford has an out from Top Rank, and they had this big spat, and clearly that wasn't enough to push him over the line. Clearly Top Rank has not been negotiating good faith with Sean Porter for a variety of reasons. We talked about that on a lot of shows. I think if Crawford wouldn't want the Porter fight, which is a bigger money fight, regardless of the belt, he wouldn't want the Ugas fight. Matthew D'Souza saying, will Crawford become a network free agent? He has one more fight on his deal. That's the reality. Shell Killer saying, easy belt for Bud. Yeah, but he's had... For Crawford, getting easy belts does nothing for him. His whole career has been getting easy belts. Let's be real honest about it. His entire career has been that. That's the reason why when he does pay-per-view, it does half the number of Earl Spence. That's why he can't really draw outside of Omaha, Nebraska. Like, there's significant reasons as to why Crawford has stagnated his career. The biggest one's probably that. Him just taking easy belts. Take away the whole, he doesn't want him, Top Rank, do not negotiate PBC in good faith. Take away that aspect, which is a huge, huge factor here, and I think the biggest factor. But just from a promoter perspective, put your promoter hat on. And if you're promoting Crawford, you're managing Crawford, is that what you want next? Or do you want to face a Thurman, a Porter, a Danny Garcia, an Earl Spence, and Manny Pacquiao? The guys that actually matter in the division in terms of name value. Daniel Edwards saying, any substance to the Pacquiao versus Spence rumors, Matt? I mean, Pacquiao posted it. Like, that's the craziest part. Like, this, I think this is legit. Like, I don't think this is Pacquiao fucking with us. He's not one to do that, first off. It's not like we're dealing with Tyson Fury. It's Fox Sports, PBC pay-per-view. Like, this looks absolutely official to me. August 21st, kind of in line with the date that I was hearing for a Spence fight. So, yeah, this all tracks. If Manny Pacquiao's posting this himself, I doubt this is not real. Could be wrong. I mean, maybe Pacquiao is fucking with us, right? And for those to see, yeah, it's right there, Manny Pacquiao, his actual account. Like, when I saw this tweet, it was like 1 minute after he posted it, and it had like 100 retweets. Like 400 likes. Look where it's at now, and it keeps going up and up and up and up. But digressing, yeah, this is legit. This is real, in my opinion. Matthew D'Souza saying, it's a bit weird seeing you so close up. What's with the whole new camera setup? Well, I'm not at my house, Matt. I'm at a recording studio in LA that I work at. So if anyone wants to record music, podcast, whatever, hit me up. This is like the side studio I do my show in. So let me know. Obviously, social media. Hit me up. Still renovating this stuff too. That's why I've been kind of brought in here to renovate the studio and make it half of it a podcast studio. Frank saying, where's the Texan homie at? Gary's out of town. Last time I saw him, he was, which was yesterday in terms of like posting. He was at a Marco Antonio Barrera press conference. And Marco Antonio Barrera is obviously fighting Jesus Soto Carras on Fight TV on pay-per-view. I think in June, something like the second week of June. I forget the exact date. But anyways. But yes, that's why it's a new camera set up. Heath in the chat saying sources have told me it's legit. Yeah, Heath. Yeah. Pacquiao Spence should be at Cowboy Stadium, not Vegas. You have to remember they're opening up the new Raider Stadium. So they have a massive fucking football stadium in Las Vegas now. Most likely the Wilder fight is probably going to be the one that to sort of christen it, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacquiao Spence fight's also in that. And I'm not going to be surprised if that comes along with a massive site fee from the people that own that stadium, which I forget who actually owns the Allegiant Stadium. I don't know if it's actually the Raiders team. I don't think they own it, but I could be wrong. Shakil is saying Vegas still has restrictions. Yeah, but this is in August. You have to understand that a lot of these restrictions we talk about are being pulled rapidly. Like it won't be long till we start seeing, I would say probably in the fall, late summer, we're going to see, fully attended events back in, the coastal states, California, New York, the states that have a lot of boxing. Don't be shocked by that. Daniel Edwards saying, I'm going to watch Bellator shortly. A guy I used to work with is in a tough fight against a Russian on the first fight. Oh, nice, Dan. I have to get home and watch that with my girlfriend because she wants to watch Valerie Loretta fight, which I'm not complaining, definitely not complaining here. But I do have to get back, I think. So this will probably be an early show. But then again, we only covered one topic and there's a lot to get to. Anyways, any other thoughts, guys, on Pacquiao Spence? Let me know in the chat. I'll try to address any questions, concerns, whatever, anything like that. But let's move on to the other big news that dropped this last week, right? And obviously, everyone knows, right, that Fury Joshua, as Eddie Hearns said, that he didn't see anything stopping the fight. Prince Khalid, one of the Saudi princes, he sees it going, man, and it's happening. Oh, shit, wait. Damn. Fuck. And I gotta say this. All the meme videos, I'll call them, about this negotiation, these arbitrations, hilarious. Boxing Twitter, you've been on a good one lately. Shout out to you guys. But Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder arbitration judge has ordered the third fight, which should be due, I think, before September 15th, I believe is the date. Obviously, Aram is out there saying we should get the fight done soon now because they have to for July 24th. Now Joshua and Usyk is being pushed by the WBO, of course, and Usyk's manager and promoter, of course, have been pushing for the fight now instead of Joe Joyce. Sorry, Joe Joyce. Should have luck there, man. So, what to make of this all? One is that I think a lot of us, me included, probably should have stuck to the line of there's an arbitration going on. We still don't have any sort of official confirmation of Fury Joshua. We should probably stop pushing these headlines from Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum talking about it being done. It's close to being done. It's done. We have the site location. It's done. Blah 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 for weeks now. We probably should have stopped that. One, because we're dealing with promoters that often lie to the media because that's their job. Two is this situation right here, that this arbitration was never dealt with until a couple days ago. And that should have been, I think, the sort of safety net for writers, journalists, media members to stop reporting on this fight like it's happening. Joshua Fury. And again, throwing myself in that boat because I talked a few times about stopping conversations about Fury Joshua on the show until it's done, but they kept having these quote saying that it's 100% done, site's done, split's done. We heard the site fee. We heard an actual figure to the fight. You know, somebody in the chat, Showkiller, is saying that it's obvious that Fury and his team never had any intention of fighting Joshua. They already had a July date booked for Wilder. I mean, they didn't. They didn't have that date booked. That's just not true. And secondly, I don't know what Fury's intentions are. I think to try to pin that man down in terms of what are his feelings, emotions, and intentions is a fool's errand. Like, there's no point in that. But we do know that Fury, from his actions, not from his words, from his actions, has not wanted this Wilder trilogy fight. And it took a lot to get the rematch to begin with. Hopefully there's no more funny business with this fight, this saga of Fury, AJ, and Wilder. I'm a little bit over it, to be quite honest. And look, I've always stated that I prefer a Wilder Fury trilogy to happen either in the immediate or right after a Fury AJ fight. And there's no way to get that on paper. That was never going to happen. And I was always concerned that if Fury beat AJ, we would never get the trilogy fight with Wilder. And I think it's deserved. I think I'm intrigued by it. I'll be honest. You guys know me. I throw my Wilder cape here from time to time. I've never seen him do as much mitt work as we've seen on social media. And I've been in multiple camps with him. Never seen him do that much mitt work. Clearly, he's trying to work on a lot of technique, a lot of issues they had in the first fights with Tyson Fury. Is that going to be enough? Has he had enough time now due to COVID, the arbitration, all these issues to fix enough technical issues to perfect a game plan, a strategy, implement enough tactics to beat Tyson Fury? I would say probably not. I would still probably bet Tyson Fury to beat Deontay Wilder in the trilogy fight. But I still think it's needed. I still think it's valuable to the sport. It's valuable for the heavyweight division. It's valuable for both parties, Fury and Wilder. And I do think we're going to get an undisputed championship at some point in the near future. Like, we already saw that the Fury AJ fight was at the finish line, and then a fucking ref came in and pulled a flag, and that's what happened. So, regardless of what happens on July 24th, I think the winner of that fight is going to fight AJ, because AJ is probably going to beat Alexander Usyk, and we're still going to get finality to that top of the division. I'm still pretty firm in that opinion that we will get finality with the heavyweight title picture within the next 18 to 24 months. I don't see how that's impossible, especially now that the economy's opening up, the world's opening up, because people act like COVID's not real anymore, and so we're going to get these fights because the money is no longer an issue like it was last year, and that's just the reality. Matthew D'Souza saying, I agree, both Fury versus Wilder fights were dramatic, and this fight is just around the corner. Yeah, I mean, this fight's 2 months away, pretty much. The first two fights were fun, entertaining, massive fights for the sport. Like, think about the saga between Fury and Wilder. That has uplifted the current generation of boxing in ways that other fighters, other combinations of fights just haven't post Mayweather-Pacquiao. So all credit to them for what they've been able to help and do for the sport in terms of bringing eyeballs to it. I think the third fight's going to be even bigger. And I think this is all just drama to build up for that potential undisputed fight in the next 2 years, let's say. Right? Like, I think all of this is built up for it. I mean, we kind of saw that in effect with Mayweather-Pacquiao, that all the failed negotiations, in my opinion, had a built-up effect in terms of the fight doing the number it did. NP in the chat saying, yeah, Fury got KO'd in the first fight, except got a 20 count. Showkill is saying they did. You don't get a day at a large venue booked overnight. First off, they're looking at that date. Secondly, you absolutely can. as you're talking to someone that has been involved in a process of booking venues with the commission, booking dates with the commission. Okay, I've advised promoters and promotions in California. Trust me, it's not that difficult to put a hold on a venue. Actually, it's quite common where certain fights get put a hold on a venue, and that fight never happens. Right, a fight early on negotiation gets put on booking for the venue, so they can hold that date if the fight gets finalized. It's quite common, especially in Vegas. Actually, really common in Vegas. So I don't know where you're coming with that. Pete, don't make me bring up Clubgate. Oh my god. So good. So good. No, Gary's out of town, guys. Gary's out of town. I see you, Tony. Gary's out of town. Unfortunately, this was a spontaneous show. Apologies. My computer got fixed. I spent $200 to get it fixed. Some hardware issues. My other computer, rest in peace, passed away. So we're working on one computer right now and doing what we can. But digressing. Yeah, I think, again, we're going to get AJ Usyk in the near future. We're going to get Fury Wilder 3 in the near future. The winners of that are probably going to face each other, I would say, early first quarter next year. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, the heavyweight division's always been, especially at the very top, the last, at least for this generation, it's always been entertaining in terms of negotiation drama, pettiness, all that fun stuff. Anyways, moving on from that, let's get to the fights this last weekend and break them down real fast. Brandon Figueroa defeated Luis Nery via the 7th round KO due to a body shot. And I wish Gary was on. Obviously, Gary would be on this show. I mean, in such a euphoric state. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when he comes back on and he's going to be fucking dancing on the show or some shit, going wild. But I got to admit, Brandon Figueroa looked fantastic, especially offensively. But here's my one gripe. Just so I can get in my gripe and get over with so Gary doesn't get too mad at me. I don't know if I learned that much in this fight with Brandon Figueroa other than that he has a chin. Like, he can take a shot. But defensively, I still see the same flaws. Offensively, I still see the same talent for violence. So I wonder what his true ceiling is. Because his defensive flaws, I think, are going to be issues for him when it comes to a Stephen Fulton or when he moves up. So, we're getting into it with Roman, right? But, I'm far more skeptical of Roman's future than Figueroa. I think Figueroa is definitely going to be a champion for a while. In terms of he might lose with Fulton, but, regain championship here and there. Like, he's talented. He's super talented. But he's not the best in the world in that division, in my opinion. I still think Fulton probably has enough, tools to outbox him, to find the right shot selection, to work the right angles. Because I still see some defensive flaws, some footwork flaws. I think Figueroa is probably going to have a very similar career to his brother. I don't know how big or how great Figueroa is going to be, to be quite honest. Dan bring up a good point about the Usyk AJ fight. I'm concerned Gary will have a sensory overload at the excitement of Usyk and the AJ fight. Bring opiates, man. No up. Oh man, hilarious. I also wonder about Luis Nery's sort of capabilities at this weight. I think he's a little bit undersized. But regardless, Figueroa looked fantastic. He largely dominated this fight. I thought that he was connecting with the bigger shots throughout. Nery was connecting with single shots that you can tell were not having the effect that Figueroa's body work was having quite early. And I cannot wait for that Stephen Fulton fight next. I mean, that's already announced. It's done. Cannot wait for it. Next up, Daniel Roman versus Ricardo Espinoza. Daniel Roman is one of those guys where he's talented enough to hang in the top 10, probably till he starts getting knocked out a bit, like until he starts, basically being shot. But his style is one that he leads to brawls. 2, he has no power. I think his combination work is fantastic, but there's no pop behind it. I think his technique is really good, but it's not, the best in the division. It's not. It doesn't wow you. I'll be honest. Even though he won the fight handily, I wasn't impressed. Am I the only one that wasn't that impressed by Daniel Roman? I see him being a guy that when he hits that top 5 again, he will falter. He's not going to win. He's not going to beat Akhmadaliev. He's not going to beat Fulton. He's not going to beat Leo. He's not going to beat Figueroa. I don't think he even beats Louis Nery. So I don't know what's next for Roman and what you can really utilize, or what's like his true ceiling, like I said, Figueroa, in this division. I think he's probably going to be a perennial like top 6, top 7 guy, and that be just it. But like who said it? Frank said in the chat, Roman looked good. Opponent was outclassed though. He looked good in a Daniel Roman way. Do you look good enough where you went, oh man, he can beat Akhmadaliev in rematch? Oh, he can beat Angelo Leo. Oh, he can beat Brandon Figueroa. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. He can beat like Michael Collin. Heath in the chat saying sources telling me Spence has also confirmed, so that means Errol Spence has probably tweeted about it. Shokilla saying why Vegas instead of Dallas though? Because you can sell out the Allegiant Stadium, which is a giant football stadium like the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, and you get the site fee from Vegas. Which, if you don't know, Vegas locations, Vegas venues give out a massive amount of just blanket money at these events. That's why. Like Mayweather had famous stories of him being given like Lamborghinis or shit like that from the MGM. They just given like $500,000 cars, like just off rip. That Vegas is different, man. Vegas will always be, unfortunately, the capital of boxing in the U.S., especially with gambling the way it is. Xavier Martinez also picked up a win against Juan Carlos Burgos. I thought he looked quite good. I think Martinez is going to be a decent prospect. I don't know his true ceiling as well. And that's it from the fights that I remember watching. Coming up this weekend, though, let's get to the Josh Taylor Jose Ramirez fight. And this is one where I will admit fully I am picking with my heart, because Josh Taylor is the better two-way fighter. Josh Taylor, I think, has impressed me a little bit more than Ramirez. I think he has better wins than Ramirez as well. But I do not like Josh Taylor at all for a variety of reasons. Jose Ramirez is a guy that I generally like. He's a California guy like me. He reps migrant farmers proudly. So I'm rooting for Jose Ramirez to get under that jab, hurt Taylor to the body, and slow Taylor down. That's Ramirez's only game plan, to get under that jab, slow Taylor to the body, so his footwork is no longer an issue. I think both guys probably have equal power. I'm curious on the hand speed. I think the hand speed might be a factor here, but I don't know who has the better hand speed here. And I do think it's going to be a fight where Taylor is on the back foot, generally speaking, picking his spots, picking his counters, picking his spots for combinations. And Ramirez is going to be the guy trying to pressure him, similar to like a Maurice Hooker fight. Can he pull it off? Man, I don't know. I love Ramirez. I hope he wins. I'll be watching this one nervously. I'll be quite honest. Jose Cepeda versus Hank Lundy also on the card. That's going to be a fun little fight. I mean, Cepeda should win that one. He's looked great as of lately. Hank Lundy, I mean, good fighter, not a Hall of Famer, not a guy that is ever going to be, looked at fondly, or not fondly, I should say. Never looked at in a way that like fans idolize him, not even like an Emmanuel Augustus way, right? Where like it doesn't matter how many losses you have, but like we remember the Drunken Master. Hank Lundy, I don't think he has that in him, to be quite honest. Also on the card, Elvis Rodriguez versus Kenneth Sims Jr., Robbie Ramirez versus Ryan Allen, and Javier Martinez versus Calvin Metcalf. It should be a fun little card tomorrow. And let's run through news, and then I'm going to head out here for an early show, guys. Jamal Charlo announced that he will take B-side status in a fight with Triple G in his backyard in a big ring. Now, I applaud fighters when they know that they have to act like a B-side in order to get a fight, to act like a B-side. You know, I've been begging Crawford to do that forever. But unfortunately, I don't think Triple G is going to give Jamal Charlo the fight anyways, because Jamal Charlo would kick his ass. That's just the reality. Jared Ennis reached a settlement with, what's his name again? Chris Medendorf, who was in a lawsuit with Cameron Duncan. And from the looks of it, this was a contract issue between Cameron Duncan and Medendorf that Ennis sort of sucked in between, unfortunately. LB gets, obviously it's over, it's settled, on to bigger and better things. Jake Paul, ladies and gentlemen, has broken away from Triller, has a deal in place with Showtime, most likely to face Floyd Mayweather after Floyd Mayweather beats up his brother on pay-per-view. I have no thoughts on this. But speaking of Triller, Triller exec has said that Dana White blocked the Oscar De La Hoya versus Georges St. Pierre pay-per-view fight. Georges St. Pierre, one of the best MMA fighters of all time, perhaps the best MMA fighter of all time. I would probably make that argument. And decent boxing skills. Trained with Freddie Roach for a long time. Fight would be a decent exhibition. But Dana White blocked it because UFC fighters are under super, super exploitive and oppressive contracts. It is what it is. And I mean, George St. Pierre is very sad about that, of course. And Anderson Silva, obviously, who is fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in a boxing fight, who's been allowed to let go of his UFC contract. The UFC allowed him to leave. Key distinction there. They didn't allow George St. Pierre to leave. He's pretty disappointed in the UFC as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today's show. I'll be back on. I may try again tomorrow. I might be back on later today in just a bit to do my political show on Trending Now Network, talk about Israel and Palestine. But most likely that's going to be tomorrow in the morning. Let me try to do it. And me and Gary should be back Monday. We're going to try Monday. Try Monday for a show. Frank in the chat saying free Palestine always. Absolutely, man. Dude, a ceasefire was declared, and within 12 hours, the Israeli military was tear gassing the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Within 12 hours. Crazy. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back on soon. I will try to get back on later today, but most likely tomorrow, and then Monday as well. Have a great day, great evening, great night. Remember, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Have a good one. Peace.